A Latin American sonnet. There is a palm tree somewhere, and a bird of paradise that speaks to me in my dreams. Well, not actually a bird, more like a blurred vision of a plane crossing the endless seams of a continent too big to fit here, in this isle of gold where we plant elder for shade, sit under a dusty sun, whatever it takes. Miles away from everywhere. In my dreams a Brit asks all the questions, and I often reply, whoever comes for tea will one day have to leave for a better world. I end up kissing the Boer who is from here or just about. So naive. A blue parrot repeats my name in Old English. Leo, Leonardo. Perhaps it was a dream. Well, ish.
Dreaming is a form of knowledge production. Nobody's immune to their ego taking the wheel. Dreaming is a form of knowledge production, and they don't want it to be that easy for us. As in, lay your head on a pillow, wake up holding something new. I said what I said, not what you say I said. Pigs are outside the house, but next door this time. It's not something our relationship will be able to survive. He doesn't show it the cat, but he loves me so. He has the gene, but it hasn't kicked in yet. Another 1,000 years, all thinking and no feeling. Shut up about Freud.
Hi, my name is Ian Humphreys. I'm going to read a poem from my new collection, Tormentil. It's called The Wood Warbler's Song. It's unmistakable, a thin coin spinning on a plate. The sound springs from nowhere, then somewhere over there, tangling itself around a thorn, rising sharply through rusted bracken. I pause until the high-pitched trill stutters to a halt. Heads or tails. It could go either way. The ICU doctor warned us last night. And now I wonder, what news of you waits for me down there in the valley, where my no-signal phone will chirp back to life in my hand.
Proof of Life on Earth, in memory of Marion Williams. In the Museum of 500,000 Objects, my eyes don't know where to settle, so I lose myself amongst the maze of cases. Every surface is covered, every cabinet packed with artefacts, acquisition numbers tattooed conspicuously in precise white paint. The guide says, much of the collection relates to how to attract a loved one, how to survive, how to deal with grief. In my private state of deferred grief, amidst the ordered chaos of the present in conversation with the past, I am drawn to the weapons of war. In the upper gallery, the tools we use to harm each other, objects whose sole function is to cause injury or death, are displayed according to type. I learned that the sword was developed purely for human combat, and that in most cultures women and swords are rarely found. The evolution of guns mirrors the evolution of man, trial and error and experimentation. Each new generation more efficient, more lethal. There is a broadsword, too heavy to carry, and a Walther PP too dangerous to be placed in the hands of a poet. Objects out of bounds. Instead, I study a single late medieval boot, 100 hobnails hammered into its sole, and a brass aquamanile in the form of a horse. We can look, but not touch. So I slip into a minor state of sensory deprivation. Sketch the boot's layers of old animal skin. Try to conjure the wearer and connect with a time when technology evolved slowly, where history was recorded at a human pace. I imagine the aquamanile filled with water. Imagine purifying my hands of the trauma of passing through the stages of life, rinsing away the fear that comes from awaiting the death of a loved one, and an ever-deepening belief in the absence of any gods.
Hi, I'm Rishi Dastidar, and this poem from Mapping the Future is called Time Takes a Moment. There's snow on my daffodils this morning, and time takes a moment to wonder what it has done in springing spring early, pretending it is single-minded, endless flow, when it is actually eddies, reverses, stops, starts, sudden lurches, minutes of intense focus. Then it says, you should be looking so hard apertures break, trying to pin this random arrangement of light down to morning tracking pixels. Capture this now because all your nows make up you. And who would you rather be? A flower waking up cold is as beautiful as you. It's worth being still to remember that.
Elegy for the Latter-day Teen Wilderness Years by Lowe. Joan, Trashley and Gingerella lived in a one-bed flat. You'd never seen girls with more poise. Our style made them sick. We had a cribbed language others didn't understand, and that gave us power. We made the streetlights our spots. We were fierce, en vogue. We spoke in the high tones of grand dames, sashayed and preened. There we were royalty. You should have seen that long coat drag along the floor. We found fake fur in a skip, but wore it like mink. We were kings anyway. We made our lives like that, rooting in bins round the back of Queen's Court, living thrifty and spare. We would hold hands and link arms on the march to some nearby far after party. We could leap across the horizon in electric blue heels and banish bigots with a look. In dim chill-outs, we made community with chatter and gossip, hugs that bookended us, on the couch and on the bed. Ours was a private world where our love for each other went unsaid, and we expressed our bonds in nicknames and twisting hips. I was Beyoncé, you were Mariah, she was Violet. We lived in the witching hybrid hours, where the dark and dim had pride of place. We were bold and wild, our songs ricocheted against the naked heavens. Then the clouds would thicken like stones. The morning would pour over us like molten gold, swallowing the glitter and bruises of night.
The methods employed to ascend to the nest of a bird of prey depend, in each instance, upon its site. If, however, the eyrie is built in the fissure of a lofty rock, a man, already secured with such as a rope, descends or is lowered from the rim of a mountain or cliff to the level of the hollow in which the eyrie is built, and, upon entering, lifts the bird from the nest. From How to Reach the Eyrie, The Art of Falconry, Volume 2. Hello. I'm so delighted to share my poem with you, Studio Apartment Eyrie. Greetings from Costa Rica. Studio Apartment Eyrie. I am Lena Panchev. Naturally, he pursues me in spite of, or rather more likely because of, the lofty differences. Sex, age, class, side effects, no doubt, of the East-West entente. I am, after all, his first girl. To reach me, he will have to change territory, carry with him mon adresse turned il mio indirizzo, a scrap of intemperance or incitement that is surviving the creases it is folded under. As if this wasn't enough, he must make inquiries. He has to climb, in mean light, 5 twisting flights of what has been condemned. Traverse a banister too shaky and broken to be depended upon. He does all this in spite. Expecting no one, I was painting a conspicuously clean portrayal of a Venetian canal scene. My brush, newly dipped, was hovering just out of the blue paint tin when the doorbell rang. Kia, it's me. Ah, that English. I find him astonished, peering down the sheer drop. I talk non-stop to relax him, cook for us a simple dinner, pasta, on the spirit stove, which is expressly forbidden. But since when has propriety ever stopped me? I'm refusing to pay rent out of solidarity. What is important is that he has desire. Above all, he's here. And from this vantage, my life is a unique wonder that will never cease. I am the fulcrum of this fiction. I know this instinctively. I say I am not in rivalry, never with no one. My convictions usually arrive this way, a stubborn bouquet of roses on a doorstep, unignorable, odious, quasi-beautiful. Who sent these? Why? Probably Cavaliere. And furthermore, who has horses in Venice to ride to the door? Fools. Only the stubborn. Isn't it stubbornness that is keeping me so girlishly young? My answer, he loves me. What more is love than to be watched, pacing the ground floor? To be dissident to yourself, refugee in someone else. I'm not cruel when I tell him, go back to your own country, and accompany him down the precarious heights, carrying for us both some precious little light.
Genius Loci. Rubbing my rhubarb in Washington Square, the infamous but much loved wearer of woolen hats in hot weather, the wonder dog, lamper of gold dust dredgers, champ of wild goose pursuits, I, the one-man band, clockless animal, whistling Tarzan, crap in the grass, rapture dalliance on benches, chuckle in my yellow beard a fuzz of tasty syllables. My drinking glass, my hand, I raise to Birdman, pigeons on his shoulders, blues harp in his lips, to acclaim the wide-mouthed tulips, velveteen wine and Kool-Aid Hughes, to bronze Giuseppe's pillbox, sarcastic squirrels mocking tourists from on top, but not those green Visigoths, the sing-alongers peddling gods. I'll take real figs and not their painted ones. And you, stoic lunch-hour zebra, bent at your tuna sandwich, shrink-wrapped in pinstriped wool for the daily auto-da-fe, do you question that I am cobalt to the blood, a rain-charmer, frog prince for a nickel with cocksure loll, human with the composition of smoke? I shoulder the kiloton of cogitation, the torture of day-glow tigers padding non-stop my yellow sleeps. But to any tethered chimp that pities me my leper life, I proffer this garden cosmopolis, its stores of salt and creamsicle, lucid dreamers with eyes wide.
My Ghost in the Witness Stand is a long sequence of sonnets. I'm going to be reading 2 excerpts. The first excerpt is a sonnet coupling, And the coupling form is a form created by the poet Karen McCarthy Wolf, where you have an original text and then a poetic line, original text of prose, and a poetic line responding. So the text here is the biblical text from the St. James Bible, and the Levite's wife is responding back to the text. And the second excerpt that I'm going to read is a sonnet duplex, and that's a form that was invented by the African-American poet Jericho Brown. I'll now read the poem. So no, before I read the poem, just to say that the Levite is a story taken from Judges in the Bible. And so imagine that the protagonist, the ghost in the witness stand, is actually in a witness stand telling her own story. My ghost in the witness stand. And it came to pass in those days when him woo me like dew shine on grass blade. And it came to pass in those days when I was pastures green, not white, ripe to be swayed. And there was a certain Levite who took to him, stayed instead ensnared. And that there was a certain Levite who took to him, that then wore no broke me up like untamed mare. And that there was a certain Levite sojourning, loitering, liming, to whistle gal passing rum shop. That there was a certain Levite sojourning, label horn a man, who woo gal, for fling down hilltop. Who took to him a concubine out of, say took me to him as damned wife thereof. There have a way start eye up my body, say he thickening me up like I's a rump. Say he thickening me up like I's rump, body to dissect, slaughter, quarter, and cut up. Body to dissect, slaughter, quarter, and cut up. I was parade each day on his auction block. My parades are pirouettes, toes bloody on wood block. Is the way he watch me, make a had was to run. Is the way he fist lick me, make a had was to run. 1 foot in front of the other, me skin put foot. 1 foot in front of the other, me black skin put foot. 'Cause in his words, I was a bird to pluck.
I was on holiday with my girlfriend in Lisbon. I was on a bus full of black Portuguese passengers. I listened, and then I realized that I could understand all the conversations. Gossip about boyfriends, anger with bosses, information about stopping irritation, laments that the driver was driving too slow. I thought that they all knew English, and it slowly dawned on me that they were all speaking Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese, but I could understand every word. I told my girlfriend that I could understand every word the Portuguese busgoers were saying, but she couldn't understand me, and as she spoke, I couldn't understand her. I thought that perhaps I was too tired from the plane flight, but my comprehension continued and my girlfriend was getting frustrated, thinking that I was faking it somehow. I asked the black man in Portuguese if he spoke English to translate between my girlfriend and I. He said yes. I explained the situation to him. He looked at me for a second and says it in English to my girlfriend. My girlfriend shouts something to me and storms off. I look at him and ask what did she say. He averts his eyes and says he'd rather not say.
Golden Grove. Unbearable as night from which sleep comes, you are everywhere at once. In the wind, on sunken earth, in stilling water, I carry your heavy urn to Golden Grove, where tamarind trees emerge as woods. The dream holds back day from night, and you, a wanderer, could not wait to leave the rain behind in our city. You will now become 1,000 things: scent of jasmine, salted air, troubling light.
The Devil's Rope. 1. Devil knows I've mauled a good few bodies in my day, and often left the souls for him. Lock out, lock in, moot point, and makes no odds. Whatever way you cross, I'll cut your skin, but still you try to dodge my barbs, poor sods. I've crossed the open plains and closed them in. I've edged a desert war. I've manned the trenches. Now I'm raising Fortress Europe's latest fences. 2. A pioneer in 1871, I was proud to be the settler's solution. Who cared if tribal ways of life were gone, now that the buffalo would face extinction? Don't blame me, a mere pawn in Lincoln's plan to span from coast to coast and build a nation. He left the Sioux and Cheyenne with no hope. I guess that's why they named me Devil's Rope. My exploits in the trenches made me famous. I thrived in war. I stood up to the test. I'm proud to say my presence made men nervous. My calls were sharp. Troops fell. You know the rest. I'll tell you, at the risk of sounding callous, I served both sides and always did my best to shield them, but my main aim was to rip. So countless soldiers died whilst in my grip. I did the job so well, they brought me back for World War II. Ideal for desert duty on Rommel's front line against the desert rats, I travelled north from Solemn over 30 sandy miles to Jagboob. Hard to keep track of all my talents, all my dirty tricks. One thing is clear, I'm keen to serve, upstanding. To tell the truth, I don't care who's commanding. I'm not done yet. Now Europe needs defence. It's not my fault if children get entangled in my razor wiring. There's no pretence. The work is tough, seen from any angle, no matter their distress. I am the fence that holds Europe's borders. Let's not wrangle. Though refugees might want the chance to settle, I thwart their hopes, proving the strength of metal.
Hello, this is a poem from the essay I have in Mapping the Future, and this poem is called Fuck Time. Once upon a time, Yo-Yo Ma, traveling through Botswana, searching for music, crosses a local shaman singing into the savannah. He rushes to notate the melody. Please sing again, he requests, to which the shaman sings something else and explains to the baffled Yo-Yo Ma that earlier clouds had covered the sun and wild antelope grazed in the distance. But the dial of the world had twirled since. The antelope had cantered into some other future. The clouds had gone, so the song had to change, had to slough off the chains us mortals clasp everything with, even our fluid wrists. The universe, in fact, is monstrously indifferent to the presence of man. We are small as moth wing fall in an orchestra, broad as galaxies, playing a symphony time isn't bothered to fathom. It respects no constant and is always moving on.